To see your son, daughter as IAS, IPS, IRS officer at an early age of 22 years, here is the solution. KP's 21st Century IAS Academy Rajahmundry, offering you best available faculty and infrastructure to guide the students design themselves, ready for civils and other competitive exams, Inter plus IAS and Degree plus IAS coaching classes. We aim not only at academic improvement but also overall development of the student's personality through indoor and outdoor games, physical trainings, yoga and exposure visits along, training in cultural art forms, and of course self-defense mechanism to the girl students especially. Well equipped with sufficient playground, infrastructure. Come join us. Let's make your dream a reality. Admissions in progress. For more details, please contact KP's 21st Century IAS Academy Rajahmundry. Phone 91009 34572 90306 9229.
Good evening, everybody. In the series of lectures on how to select optional, today we are having we are going to have a class on sociology. So sociology is an important optional, both from the point of view of scoring subject being a scoring subject, as well as from the point of view of compatibility with the general studies papers. So sociology, if you opt sociology, you can get one general essay based on the sociology. And in the paper one, there are social issues covering around 100 marks. And in ethics paper also, in the paper 4 ethics, in the ethics paper also, at least 50 marks to 100 marks will be coming from related to the sociology. So on the significance of sociology as an optional, we have with us Dr. Ganesh. He is professor, head of the department in the sociology from Osmania University. And now he is also the principal of Osmania University of Arts. I request Dr. Ganesh sir, Professor Ganesh sir, please unmute sir. Good evening sir.
Okay. Good evening to all of you. Good evening, Mr. Krishna Pradeep.
Sir, good evening, sir. Good evening. Please.
Good evening, Andy. Good evening. Baundara.
Sir.
Yeah. Shall I continue?
Yeah, sure, sir. Please start.
Okay. So, good evening to all of you. First of all, I thank Mr. Krishna Pradeep for giving me this opportunity to share some of my views on sociology with the civil services aspirants. Before I discuss about sociology as an optional for civil services examination, I would like to say that I am working as the professor of sociology in Osmania University for the past 30 years. And I am the head department of sociology and also principal University College of Arts and Social Sciences, Osmania University. And apart from my academic activities, I have a passion to train the students for civil services examination. And I think, in fact, in earlier lecture, I have given certain tips with regard to how to prepare for civil services examinations. Apart from the papers related to general studies, selection of optional is very, very important. Selection of optional is very, very important. Why? Because in UPSC civil services main examination, 500 marks are allocated only for optional subject. This optional subject constitute of two papers, each 250 marks. So scoring in optional subject is very, very important. And with my experience, I should say that the candidate must score at least 60% and above marks in optional paper, not less than 60%. At any cost, the civil services, those who appear for civil services mains examination, they must score more than 60% marks in optional. Then only you will get good rank. Then secondly, nowadays, most of the students are appearing for civil services examination with the social science subjects as their optional, like sociology, anthropology, public administration, history, geography, political science, etc. And for the past 20 years, we are training the students for civil services main examination with sociology as one of the optional. In fact, many students have got selection for IAS, IPS, and IRS with sociology as one of the optional. But here I would like to make it one point very clear that, in fact, every social science subject is important and every subject is a good subject provided if the student is having interest in that subject. First of all, the student has to choose an optional on the basis of their interest in a particular subject. That is why always I suggest the students that first you go through the syllabus of all these subjects. Then you think about that or take the advice from the experts. Then you select your optional. And if at all anybody would like to choose sociology as an optional, I should say that it is one of the best optional to score very good marks. Why I would like to say it is one of the best optional means there are 2-3 reasons. One is the nature of the sociology subject is very easy to understand. Any student with any academic background can understand the sociology. Why? Because it is the scientific understanding about the society, and various aspects that are studied as part of sociology are very easy to understand. Secondly, it is not only easy to understand, but yes, it is very easy to present also. Once a student is able to understand, once a student get a command over the subject, it is very easy to present the answers. Third, most of the topics which a student study as part of sociology are useful for general studies as well as essay writing. If you look at the past 10 years of question papers related to essay and general studies, most of the questions are related to sociology. For example, if you take general studies paper 1 and general studies paper 2, almost around 30% of the syllabus is directly related to sociology, like the salient features of Indian society, poverty, then urbanization and industrialization, then social impact of globalization on Indian society. Likewise, there are many topics which are directly related to sociology, especially paper 2 of sociology is directly related to general studies paper 1 and also general studies paper 2. Similarly, sociology mainly focuses on the various social and economic issues that are persisting in Indian society. So therefore, most of the topics which we study as part of sociology would be helpful for essay writing. Generally, in essay paper, at least 1 or 2 topics are related to Indian society. And the knowledge of sociology would be very much helpful to write a better essay. Then fourth, a student can score very good marks. Why? Because so much of material is available with regard to sociology. There is no dearth of material. There are very good books related to paper 1 and paper 2 of sociology. So likewise, there are many positive aspects in relation to sociology as one of the optional. Now, let me discuss the nature of sociology and what are the important aspects that are studied as part of sociology. You know very well that every optional constitutes of 2 papers. And sociology paper 1 is purely a theoretical subject. A theoretical subject. So paper 1 mainly focuses on the analysis of social structure, sociological theories, research methodology, and the important social institutions of the society. So here, if we carefully go through the syllabus of sociology paper 1, it begins with introduction of sociology. As part of introduction of sociology, we study about what is sociology, what is the nature of sociology as a scientific discipline, and how sociology is related with other social sciences, whether sociology is a just common sense knowledge or a scientific knowledge related to society. So, according to the sociologists, sociology is not just a common sense knowledge. Sociologists, for the past more than 100 years, generated so much of knowledge, so much of information related to the society. And in the introduction of sociology, we also discuss that what are the factors that have contributed for the development of sociology as a scientific discipline. According to sociologists, sociology is a science. It is a science like any other physical sciences and social sciences. Sociology is a science like physics, chemistry, biology, and the social sciences like political science, economics, etc. And sociologists have developed different scientific methods to understand the nature of the society, to understand the causes for various social issues, and to study the various social and economic issues that are persisting in the society. Then on the basis of that, sociologists provide the solutions. That is why always I say that sociological knowledge is not just a theoretical knowledge, but the knowledge of sociology is very much helpful to understand the society in a scientific way, so that even if you become an administrator, right, you can find the scientific solutions to various problems which you encounter as part of your administration. Then, especially in paper 1, sociology paper 1, there are 5 important components. These 5 important components are very, very important to understand the sociology as a subject, or sociology as a theoretical subject. First one is the basic introduction to sociology, in which we say that sociology is a scientific study of the society. Sociology mainly focuses on the study of social structure, social relations, social processes, social stratification, social problems, social change, etc. And sociologists argue that society is not static, society is dynamic. So therefore, sociology tries to understand the social dynamics, political dynamics in the society. Then there is second component which mainly focuses on the research methods that are used by the sociologists for the scientific understanding of the society. There are many scientific methods like historical method, comparative method, statistical method, positivist method, functionalist method, case study method. Likewise, there are different methods to understand the society in a scientific way. Then many sociologists have contributed for the development of sociology as a scientific discipline. And here in paper 1, we have one chapter on social thinkers. In fact, there are many social thinkers who have contributed for the development of sociology as a scientific discipline. And even today, there are many sociologists who are studying about the various issues that are persisting in the global society as well as in Indian society. They are trying to provide the scientific analysis on the various issues and social dynamics, political dynamics in global society. So, but as far as the sociology syllabus is concerned, there are 6 important thinkers. And a student is supposed to have an in-depth understanding of the contributions of these sociologists or social thinkers like Karl Marx, Emile Durkheim, Max Weber, Talcott Parsons, R.K. Merton, and G.H. Mead. These 6 thinkers are very, very important to understand the various aspects related to human society. And all these 6 thinkers have provided the various social, economic, and political dimensions of the society. And from the examination point of view, these 6 important thinkers are very, very important. At least the questions worth of around 100 marks are asked related to these sociological thinkers. It's very, very important chapter. Then we have one more chapter on social stratification and mobility. According to the sociologists, social inequality is the inherent nature of human society. In fact, we talks about social equality, but there is no society on the earth where there is 100% equality. So social inequality is the nature of human society or characteristic of human society. And you take any society in the world, the society is divided into different social groups. And these social groups are arranged in a hierarchical order. So social inequality plus social hierarchy, it is known as social stratification. Almost all societies in the world are stratified. And there are certain dimensions of social stratification. For example, people are divided into different social groups on the basis of, say, economic status. For example, if you look at the Western societies, there you can find upper class, middle class, lower class. Why? Because people are stratified on the basis of class. Most of the capitalist societies are stratified on the basis of class. But whereas in Indian society, right, more specifically Hindu society is stratified on the basis of caste. Ours is a caste-based society. People are divided into different caste groups, and all these caste groups are arranged in a hierarchical order. Similarly, in some societies, it is stratified on the basis of gender. Generally, male are considered superior to the female. In some society is stratified on the basis of race, like whites and blacks. So likewise, there are different dimensions for the stratification of the society. So in this chapter, we discuss about what is meant by stratification, what are the dimensions of social stratification, and what are the important forms of stratification. Like, as I told you, like caste, class, these are the two important forms of social stratification. And there are certain theories related to social stratification. So this is again very, very important. Say, if you take a chapter on social thinkers, a chapter on social stratification, a chapter on research methodology. So from these three chapters, 100% questions are asked. 100%. If the student is thorough with these three chapters, 100% questions are asked from these three chapters. So similarly, there are certain chapters related to the basic social institutions. In fact, sociology studies about the social structure, social relations, social processes, social problems, and social change, of which the social institutions are very important. From sociological point of view, social institutions means like family, or family system, marriage system, economic system, political system, religious system, education system. All these are considered as the basic social institutions. No society in the world can survive without these basic social institutions. You take any society in the world, you can find family, marriage, kinship system, religion, economy, polity, education. So in sociology, we discuss about these systems. And more specifically, we discuss about economic system, and we discuss about political system, political power, theories related to political power, then religion, theories of religion, importance of religion or role of religion in the society. So these aspects are discussed as part of paper 1. Then we have, and at the same time, we also discuss changing trends in these basic social institutions. What kind of changes that are taking place in the family system, marriage system, economic system, political system, and religion. Then in paper 1, we have one more chapter on social change in modern society. Already I told you, according to sociologists, society is dynamic. Society is not static. Every society undergoes change because of the influence of various factors. And especially due to the impact of education, technology, social legislations, every society undergoes change in the course of time. As there is an advancement in knowledge, advancement in technology, society undergoes change. So in this chapter, we discuss about what exactly meant by social change and what are the factors that contribute for social change, and sociological theories related to social change, and more specifically, how education contribute for social change, how science and technology contribute for social change. These kind of topics are discussed in this chapter. So as I told you, paper 1 is purely theoretical. Paper 1 is purely theoretical. And even as far as presentation in the examination is concerned, there is no need of much analysis. Whatever the students study or prepare on various topics, and that information need to be presented in a systematic manner. So therefore, paper 1, there are 5 important components. If a student is thorough with these 5 important components, 100% questions are asked from these 5 components. Like as I told you, the fundamentals of sociology or introduction to sociology, research methodology, social thinkers, stratification and mobility, the basic social institutions like family, marriage, political system, religion. Yeah, I will answer. Mr. Raju is asking one question that I will answer later. Let me complete my presentation. Definitely I will answer your question. Then social change in modern society. So these 5 to 6 components are very, very important for paper 1. The paper 1 is purely theoretical, and many standard texts are available for paper 1. Then coming to paper 2. Paper 2 is purely related to Indian society. even the title of this paper itself is Indian Society, Structure and Change. This paper too mainly focuses on the structure, the basic structure of the Indian society. You know, Indian society is a plural society. Indian society constitute of the it constitute of various racial groups, cultural groups, languages, and the traditions, etc. So therefore, the paper 2 actually begins with the basic characteristics of Indian society. Generally, we use a statement that unity in diversity. In fact, Indian society is a highly diversified society. Indian society is diversified in terms of race, culture, language, etc. There are various racial groups, linguistic groups, and cultural groups. But in spite of that, Indian society is projected as one nation and one culture. That is unity in diversity. And if we carefully go through the syllabus related to paper 2, it begins with the perspectives on the study of Indian society. There are different perspectives to understand Indian society. In fact, that is the beauty of sociology. In sociology, one particular society or one particular issue is studied, analyzed, and understood with various perspectives. Basically, in sociology, we have the perspectives like functionalist perspective, conflict perspective, interactionist perspective, subaltern perspective, feminist perspective. Like there are different perspectives to understand the same society. So therefore, in paper 1, mainly we need to discuss the 3 important perspectives that have been used by the sociologists to analyze. Yeah, I think Lata Jadhav has asked one question. Okay, I will answer that question. So we have Indological perspective, structural functional perspective, and Marxist perspective or conflict perspective. These 3 perspectives are different. And sociologists have tried to understand and analyze Indian society from these 3 perspectives. For example, take caste system in Indian society. Caste system in Indian society can be studied by using structural functional perspective. Like M.N. Srinivas has used structural functional perspective to analyze the caste system. Then structural functionalist perspective, uh, in fact, focuses on the utility of the caste system for the smooth functioning of the Indian society. In fact, structural functionalist perspective says that caste system has contributed for the social integration in Indian society. There is so much of interdependence in Indian society mainly because of the caste system. But this has been condemned by the Marxist thinkers. The Marxist perspective or conflict perspective says that caste system is a divisive force. Caste system has divided the Indian society and it has created social and economic inequalities in the society. And conflict perspective says that caste system has contributed for the social and economic exploitation in Indian society. So that is why their argument is that we need to eliminate the caste system. So likewise, there are different arguments on the various systems in Indian society by using different perspectives. And at the same time, the sociologists say that in Indian society, we have three components, or we have three types of communities in Indian society. We have rural community, urban community, and tribal community. So paper 2 mainly focuses on the nature of rural community, urban community, and tribal community. And more specifically, the problems that are persisting in rural community, urban community, and tribal community. For example, the structure of rural community. Generally, in Indian context, we can say rural community have an agrarian social structure. So what exactly meant by an agrarian social structure? Then land tenure systems in rural areas. Similarly, the problems that are persisting in tribal areas. For example, there are many problems in tribal areas like land alienation, poverty, chronic indebtedness, health-related issues. So the point here is that we discuss about rural communities, urban communities, and tribal communities, and the problems that are persisting in these three types of communities. And in order to solve these problems, both Government of India and also the state governments have initiated many development programs. For example, take rural development programs. There are many poverty alleviation programs. So we need to discuss about the rural development programs and more specifically poverty alleviation programs like IRDP, Integrated Rural Development Program, And later on, this particular program has been restructured and renamed as SGSY, Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarojgar Yojana. And again later on, Swarna Jayanti Gram Swarojgar Yojana has been restructured and renamed as NRLM, National Rural Livelihoods Mission. Now this is renamed as Deen Dayal Antyodaya Yojana, National Rural Livelihoods Mission. So we need to discuss about such kind of development programs like Mahatma Gandhi Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme, MGNREGS. We also have many other rural development programs like Sansad Adarsh Gram Yojana. Then likewise, we need to discuss various rural development programs, urban development programs, and also tribal development programs. And apart from that, we need to discuss certain flagship programs that have been initiated in Indian society, like land reforms in India, social impact of land reforms, similarly green revolution. You know, green revolution has contributed for social and economic change in Indian society. More specifically, green revolution has contributed for increasing food grain production. So if you look at the statistical data, around in 1965, the food grain production was around 85 million tons. But with the Green Revolution program, by 2019, food grain production has increased to almost around 300 million tons. But the same Green Revolution has also created certain problems. So therefore, we need to look at the Green Revolution from the positive and negative aspects. There are certain positive consequences and also negative consequences of Green Revolution. So this is one aspect which we study. Then secondly, there is one chapter in paper 2 related to social change in India. How various aspects have contributed for social change in India. For example, development planning and mixed economy. How development planning in India has contributed for social change. And how constitution and various social legislations have contributed for social change in India. How education has contributed for social change in India. How industrialization and urbanization have contributed for social change in India. So all these aspects we discuss as part of paper 2. And there are many topics which I told you, like related to general studies, like Green Revolution, land reforms, rural development programs. All these are related to general studies. Similarly, we have certain topics like regionalism and decentralization of power. You know, during the post-independent India, regional movements have come up in various parts of the country, starting from Dravidian movement, Khalistan movement, Telangana movement, Jharkhand movement, Vidarbha movement, like various regional and sub-regional movements have come up and demanding for a separate state. And not only that, today there are certain movements which are demanding for a separate sovereign state by detaching themselves from Indian Union. They are called secessionist movements. Secessionist movements like Naga movement, JKLF movement, Khalistan movement. All these were the secessionist movements. Similarly, we have the topic like communalism and secularism. In fact, India claims that it is a secular state. But there are many challenges for secularism in India. Can we say that secular principles are strictly practiced in Indian society? Then what are the major challenges for secularism in India? And what are the factors that have contributed for communalism in India? And similarly, we have a topic like democracy. What is meant by democracy? And what are the major challenges for democratic governance in India? So likewise, there are many topics which are very general, but very much helpful to understand the Indian society. And one more important topic in paper 2 is on social movements, which is very, very important. In fact, during the post-independence period, Indian society has experienced various social movements demanding many things. Indian society has experienced the movements like peasants and farmers movements, women's movements, Dalit movements, backward caste movements, environmental movements, ethnicity movements, right? And all these movements have raised several issues. And all these social movements have resulted into the initiation of various social legislations in Indian society. For example, take Dalit movements in India. Dalit movements in India have contributed for the introduction of constitutional safeguards to provide the constitutional safeguards for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. Dalit movements in India has contributed for the introduction of Article 17, through which untouchability was prohibited or abolished. Then various social legislations have been initiated because of the Dalit movements, like SC/ST Prevention of Atrocities Act, Forest Rights Act for tribes. So there are many issues which we can discuss with regard to these social movements. This is very, very important topic in paper 2. Then coming to another most important topic is the population dynamics, which is again very, very important. You know very well India is considered as one of the biggest country in the world in terms of population. India is considered as the second largest country in the world in terms of population, next to China. According to 2011 census report, we have around 121 crore population. By 2025, it is estimated that Indian population would become around 140 crore. Maybe by 2005 or 2025 or 2026, India will become number one in the world in terms of population. So here the point is that the various issues are emerging in relation to population. Whether this growing population is an asset or burden for economic development in India. We need to relate population to economic development. Whether population is a burden, whether population is retarding the economic development in this country, or the large size of the population or this large size of the manpower can be used for the faster economic development in this country. And there are many arguments. We need to present both the arguments. And similarly, there are certain issues emerging in Indian society, like aging population. The aging population is increasing. The problems related to old age population are increasing very much. How to address the issues related to aging population? And similarly, we have the sex ratio and child sex ratio. If you look at Indian population, the male population is increasing, whereas female population is reducing. And especially if you look at the child sex ratio, there is so much of difference between male child population and female child population. And especially in the states like Maharashtra, Punjab, Haryana, Gujarat, the child sex ratio is decreasing very much. And what would be the consequence? Similarly, we have so much of infant mortality, child mortality, maternal mortality. So why the child mortality rate, infant mortality rate, and maternal mortality rate is very high in Indian society when compared to developed nations? So there are many issues related to population which we need to discuss. And in fact, India is the first country which has come out with its own population policy. And India is the first country which has initiated the family planning and family welfare program in the country. So, population dynamics is one of the most important topic in paper 2, which is very much related to general studies and also essay writing. And we have another topic called challenges of social transformation. The topics covered under challenges of social transformation are like the crisis of development. This is again very important issue. Today, for the past almost 6 to 7 decades, Government of India has come out with various development projects. Not only Government of India, even corporate sector, private sector has come out with various development projects. In the name of development projects, thousands and thousands of hectares of land has been acquired by the state for these development projects. So this has resulted into the displacement of population. So the displacement, development induced displacement is one of the serious issue in many states in India. You take any state in India, whether West Bengal, Orissa, Bihar, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Kerala, you take any state. In most of these states, lakhs of people have been displaced in order to acquire the land for development projects. And similarly, environmental issues. These development projects have not only resulted into displacement of population, but they have also resulted into environmental destruction. So these are very important issues. Similarly, we have certain issues like poverty. Poverty is one of the serious issues in Indian society. Even in spite of various development programs in India for the past more than 60 years, still around 30% of the people are below poverty line. Why? Then another issue is like violence against women. In spite of having several legislations, violence against women has increased very much, both physical violence as well as the mental violence. And more specifically, domestic violence has increased very much for the past few decades. Then caste conflicts, ethnic conflicts, communal conflicts, all these are the various issues that are still continuing in Indian society. So likewise, paper 2 mainly focuses on various social, economic, and political issues that are persisting in Indian society. In fact, paper 2 is very, very interesting paper. And by studying paper 2 of sociology, you will get a broad idea, a comprehensive idea about Indian society, Indian social structure, social and economic development in India, social dynamics in Indian society, various development programs in Indian society, and at the same time, various social and economic issues that are persisting in Indian society. And this is very much scoring paper. And moreover, it is not that difficult to understand. A student with any kind of academic background can understand these topics. So therefore, I can say that sociology as an optional is very much useful for any student to get command over the subject, and to present the answers in an effective way, and to score the good marks in civil services main examination. And of all, I would like to say that the content of this paper would be helpful for general studies as well as essay writing. So these are some of the advantages with sociology. And many books are available related to both paper 1 as well as paper 2. There are many standard texts available related to paper 1. For example, there are books like Sociology, Themes and Perspectives by Harlambus, which is very, very good book, Harlambus and Hallborn, to understand basics of sociology. Similarly, there is one book called Fundamentals of Sociology, written by Francis Abraham, and Social Theory by George Ridger. So these are the standard books useful to understand sociology, especially paper 1. Similarly, there are many books related to Indian society, like Society in India by Ram Ahuja, Social Problems in India by Ram Ahuja. Then there are some specific books related to different topics, like say social movements. On social movements, there is a book called written by Ghanshyam Shah, Social Movements in India by Ghanshyam Shah. Similarly, there is a book called Indian Economy by Mishra and Puri. This Indian Economy by Mishra and Puri is very much helpful to understand the topics like land reforms, green revolution, poverty, then rural development programs, population dynamics. For many topics, this particular book is useful. So likewise, sociology is considered as one of the best optional for civil services mains examination. Now, there are some questions. One student has asked that what is about socialism and what type of socialist exists in India? Now here, basically socialism is an ideology. So broadly, there are two important ideologies in the world. One is capitalism and another one is socialism, which can be also known as communism. Actually, the socialism and communism as an ideology, it has been introduced by Karl Marx. Socialism is basically a kind of economic system where all the resources of development are under the control of the community rather than the individual. Under capitalism, all the forces of production are like land, capital, industries, technology, all these are in the hands of the private persons. So capitalism is considered as an exploitative kind of economic system. But whereas socialism talks about social and economic equality, where every individual have the equal access to the forces of production. whether it is land or industry or capital or technology, that is in the hands of the community as a whole. So the profits out of land or out of industry are enjoyed by the entire community. Okay. In fact, Karl Marx says that a communist society is a society where there are no inequalities, where there is no exploitation, and where all the resources are under the control of the community. That is basically called socialism or communism. Then we have one question. Yes, as far as the social thinkers and a topic on social stratification, these two are concerned. First of all, a student has to read the standard text and they have to attend the lectures given by the experts. And most importantly, you need to prepare the notes for each topic. For example, take Karl Marx. By referring the books like Harlambus or George Ridger, you can prepare the notes. And if you have in-depth knowledge about particular thinker, you can present the answer according to the question. Similarly, related to social stratification, there are many standard texts, and on the basis of that, you can prepare the notes on your own or with the help of the teacher. So the point is that preparing the notes is very, very important. That is why what I have done, for every topic, I have prepared a handout. While teaching, once the lecture is completed, I distribute the handout to all the students. The handout means handout comprises of all the important points related to that particular topic. So such kind of handouts will be helpful for you to understand the subject and also to present the answer in a more effective way. Yeah, one student is asking that his academic background is commerce. Yes, as far as sociology is concerned, already I told you, a student with any kind of academic background can opt sociology. Definitely, when compared to any other subject, sociology is a very simple subject, very easy to understand, and you can score very good marks with sociology. A lot of material is available. So therefore, irrespective of your academic background, you may be an engineering student, or you may be a commerce student, or you may be a science student, but still you can take sociology as your optional. And let me tell you, for the past 20 years, I am training the students with sociology as an optional. Most of the students, maximum number of students have scored more than 60%, more than 65% marks in sociology, and they got IAS and IPS. And they have got very good rank mainly because of good scoring in sociology, and the knowledge of sociology was very much helpful for them to write an essay in a better way. That's what they say. So therefore, the success rate is very high. The success rate is very high. I can't say in percentage, but definitely the success rate is very high with sociology as optional. Okay. Would you like to ask any questions? Anybody would like to ask any questions? Okay. Or shall we stop here? In fact, I have completed my presentation. Yeah, here one student has asked how much time it take to complete, right? Uh, Generally, uh, to get in-depth understanding over the subject, uh, you need to take coaching, or you need to study at least 6 months, 5 to 6 months, to read the standard text and to prepare the notes, to go through the notes. Definitely, it takes around 6 months time, and 6 months to 1 year, you can get command over the subject. 6 months for reading to get understanding over the subject, and later on another 6 months to uh, make yourself uh, confident to present the answers in a more effective way. That is why what I have done, I have not only provided the material for the students, but generally I used to give the question papers to the students, question papers. So I asked the students to write the answers. So that if they write the answers, uh, uh, they can improve their effective presentation so that they can score good marks. Yeah, here one student has asked that 10 years papers, those will repeat or not. Yes, generally, most of the questions related to different topics repeat, but the style of asking the question may change. For example, take Karl Marx. On Karl Marx, questions can be asked in different ways, but the topic remains same. I told you, like, say, paper one, social thinkers. If you are thorough with the social thinkers, yes, any kind of question can be answered, right? So definitely the topics are repeated, but the style of question may change. No matter, though you have studied in Telugu medium, still you can write uh, civil services exam in English, or even you can write in Telugu also. Nowadays, many students are, especially those who have come from Telugu medium background, there are certain Telugu medium books published by Telugu Academy and also Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Open University. And those books will help you to have the basic foundation to improve your subject knowledge. But at the same time, by reading the English books, you can translate that, and you can develop the course material in Telugu, and that will be helpful to present the answers in an effective way in civil services mains examination. But a lot of material is available in English. It's not that difficult. And somebody is asking basic books. I suggest you to start with, to understand what is sociology. You read Sociology by C.N. Shankar Rao. This is a basic book to understand what is sociology, what is the nature of sociology. Like, the basics you can understand with this book. But later on, you need to read Sociology, Themes and Perspectives by Haralambous and Halbar. This is one book which is very good. And another one, Social Theory by George Ridger. Social Theory by George Ridger. that is very good book. These two are for paper 1. But as far as paper 2 is concerned, Society in India by Ram Ahuja. Society in India by Ram Ahuja. And another one, Social Problems in India by Ram Ahuja. These two books are very important. But for paper 2, you need to consult different books, because topic wise you need to refer different books. Like I told you, for topics like land reforms, green revolution, poverty, unemployment, population dynamics, for these topics you need to refer Indian Economy by Mishra and Puri. Then you have uh, some journals. For example, say Yojana. Yojana is very much helpful for sociology paper 2. And there is one report like social development in India. That report is very much helpful to prepare for the topics like uh, development induced displacement in India or environmental crisis in India. Like depending upon the nature of the topic, you need to gather the material from different books, journals, and articles published in different uh, competitive oriented magazines. For example, uh, Pratyogita Darpan. Pratyogita Darpan is very good journal where you get lot of information related to general studies as well as sociology paper 2. Yeah, here somebody is asking a question that shall we cover whole syllabus of CSC within 1.5 year preparation to crack the examination? Yes, actually, to prepare for civil services examination, including your general studies and optional, it requires at least 1 year time. 1 year rigorous preparation is essential to crack the civil services examination in single attempt. It is possible, but you need to prepare rigorously at least for 1 year. Then definitely, yes, you will be successful. If at all you are able to raise yourself right up to the expectations of civil services examination. Yes, somebody is asking a question that NCERT books, right? There are some NCERT books, but here I suggest that though NCERT books are helpful to have a basic understanding about sociology, but it is not compulsory. Why? Because there are many basic books available related to sociology. As I told you, like Sociology by C.N. Shankar Rao, or Fundamentals of Sociology by Francis Abraham. Then Sociology Themes and Perspectives by Harlambus and Halborn. Then Society in India by Ram Ahuja. So all these books will help you to understand the subject. So as far as my knowledge is concerned, nothing wrong if you read NCERT books, but they are not compulsory. But standard text reading, certain standard texts are very, very important to get command over the subject. Yes, as a degree student, somebody is asking a question that as a degree student, how should I manage UPSC preparation, right? So, uh, while focusing on your graduate course, uh, every day or every week, you need to allocate some time for the preparation on general studies papers as well as optional. Supposing if you take sociology as an optional, first of all, you go through the syllabus, then better buy the books related to sociology and start with paper one. And every week you complete few topics, and you need to have a proper planning, proper schedule is required. Okay, you allocate half of the time for your regular degree course, and at least 2 to 3 hours a day for preparing for civil services examination. So if you prepare in a methodical way uh, for 1 or 2 years, definitely uh, you will get uh, that kind of energy to appear for civil services examination, and definitely you will be successful. Yes, as I told you, even for engineering student, uh, understanding the basic concepts in sociology is not that difficult. Uh, if you read the sociology books, it is very easy to understand the basic concepts in sociology and also the theories in sociology. It is not that difficult. And let me tell you, for the past 20 years, majority of the students were engineering students. Those who were successful in civil services examination with sociology as an optional. Let me tell you, many of my students were engineering students, opted sociology as an optional, and they were successful. It's very easy. No, uh, people think that if the nature of the subject is too general, the scoring would be less. No, it is with my 30 years of experience, I can tell you that it depends upon your preparation, it depends upon your presentation style. That is why those who take sociology as an optional, always I tell them, number one, first step, read the books carefully, and you need to choose certain standard texts. And those who attend the coaching classes, generally I give the exhaustive material apart from the handouts, classroom handouts. So I ask the students to read the books, material, and handouts carefully, number one. And once you are able to understand the subject, then you write the answers to the questions. In fact, I have developed number of question papers related to paper 1 as well as paper 2. And you write the answers to the questions and take the feedback from the experts. And generally, I ask the students to write the answers and I evaluate those answer scripts and I give the feedback for them, whether they are presenting the answer in a systematic way or not. So your scoring actually depends upon how you are presenting the answer. So always you need to focus on the important aspects related to the topic. You need to present in an effective manner. There is a need of logical presentation. So certain steps are required to make your answer more effective then only you can score good marks. That is why writing practice is very, very important. Whatever the subject, whether it is sociology or public administration or political science, for all these subjects, writing practice is very important. Writing practice. Simply reading is not sufficient. You need to attend the classes, read the books, read the standard books, then write the answers to the questions. Then take the feedback from the experts, whether you are able to present the answers in an effective way or not. So that will help you to score good marks. So somebody is asking, I am feeling fear as I took BA in graduation. No, nothing wrong. What is wrong? If you take BA, your BA course is very much related to the civil services uh, general studies papers and also optionals. You choose one of the optional, right, from your related to your BA degree course. Prepare systematically. Definitely, you can crack UPSC civil services examination. There is no need to fear. First of all, have a positive perception. Please, I think you are able to understand my point. First of all, you should have a positive outlook, positive thinking about the examination, and develop the self-confidence that yes, I can crack the UPSC civil services exam. And at the same time, you need to work systematically in a methodical way. Okay. So your style of preparation is more important. And always I tell there is no luck, only hard work. Hard work matters. Right? At least you focus on 6 hours a day preparation. Read, write. You need to focus on 3 aspects. Attend the classes regularly, read the standard books, and write the answers in an effective way. Try to improve your subject knowledge. Definitely you will be successful in civil services examination. Then somebody is asking, one question is, what are the common mistakes most people do in sociology? Yeah, many students think that sociology is very easy and they can write or they can present the answer very easily. No, don't think like that. And secondly, you need to use the sociological language. When you read the standard text, you can acquire that skill of presenting the answer. So generally, students try to present the answer in a very simplistic manner. That is the mistake which they do. So you are supposed to present your answer in a sociological language. There is a sociological terminology. That is why I suggest the students who would like to opt sociology, read some basic books. And even you buy the dictionary of sociology. You have 2 dictionaries of sociology. One is Oxford Dictionary of Sociology and another one, Penguin Dictionary of Sociology. So there are certain terminologies for like socialization, social stratification, right? Social conflict. Like there are different concepts. So you need to use the sociological language while presenting your answer so that you can score good marks. Then another one is asking, sir, sociology and geography both are same or different optional subjects? Yes, these two are totally different. Sociology is different, geography is different. Sociology is related to the society in general, whereas geography is purely related to the physical, social, economic, and political geography of the world and geography of the country. That is totally different. And sociology is totally different. Sociology is mainly related to the social life, social dynamics, social problems, right? Social development, so social policies. So sociology is totally different from geography. Yes, I think Mr. Raju is asking, sir, I need personal conversation with you. So can I have your appointment? Yes, you can. You can meet me in university. You can come to the uh, Department of Sociology, Usmania University, Arts College building. You can come there, you can meet me, you can talk to me. Otherwise, uh, I will be available even in 21st Century IAS Academy once the physical classes are started. There also you can meet me. No problem. Anytime you can meet me. I'll spare some time and definitely I will provide you whatever the information you want to appear for civil services examination. And another question is uh, anthropology versus sociology. So here, uh, as far as anthropology and sociology are concerned, the syllabus of paper 2 anthropology, paper 2 sociology are very close, more or less similar. But as far as paper 1 anthropology is different from the paper 1 of sociology. Let me tell you, sociology mainly focuses on the contemporary society, contemporary modern society, whereas anthropology focuses on the physical and cultural aspects of the society, more specifically primitive society, right? Anthropology mainly focuses on physical anthropology, like physical structure of the human beings. And apart from that, it mainly focuses on the study of primitive communities, not on the modern societies. But whereas sociology mainly focuses on the contemporary modern societies. That is the main difference between sociology and anthropology, but both of them are considered as the twin sisters. They are close to each other in most of the aspects. Uh, yeah, uh, as you said, many past records state that most UPSC rankers are engineering students. How far this is true? Many engineering students might be successful uh, in UPSC civil services exam, but that doesn't mean that others are not successful. Let me tell you, I have seen many graduate students, those who have studied BA or BCom or BSc, they are also successful in civil services exam. The success in civil services exam depends upon your style of preparation, your hard work, right? Your confidence level. These are very, very important. Your academic qualification does not determine your success in civil services examination. Let me tell you, I've seen many students who have not even studied regularly. I have seen some students, those who have studied BA through distance mode, right? Through distance mode. And they have appeared for civil services exam and they were successful. They got IAS and IPS. So that means which degree you have studied, whether you are an engineering student or medical student or an ordinary graduate, that doesn't matter. Your success mainly depends upon your hard work, your methodical preparation, your systematic planning, and effective presentation. These are very important to be successful in civil services examination. Yes, some of the engineering students might be putting a lot of hard work. Therefore, they might be successful. But your degree is nothing to do with the success in civil services examination. Purely it depends upon your hard work. Again and again, I am telling you, the success in civil services examination always depends upon your hard work, your systematic planning, your acquisition of knowledge, accumulation of study material and writing practice, presentation of your answer in effective way. These qualities are essential to be successful in civil services examination. Yeah, in fact, this question I don't know. Sir, are there any reading halls in Koti? I don't know whether reading halls are there or not. You please ask some of your friends or somebody. I don't have answer for this. Anything? Shall we stop here? Mr. Krishna Pradeep. Mr. Krishna Pradeep, sir, are you online? Okay, at the outset, let me thank Mr. Krishna Pradeep for giving this opportunity to share uh, some of my views with regard to sociology with the civil services aspirants. And if at all you want to take coaching, or if you want any help with regard to sociology, definitely I will help you. You can approach me anytime. Most of the students have doubt. CSC exam starts for zero knowledge student. It is possible, sir. Means what exactly meant by zero knowledge? I am not able to understand what exactly meant by zero knowledge. Only thing is that, as I told you repeatedly, sometimes you may not have any awareness or any knowledge related to UPSC civil services examination, but you can start afresh. So you need to take non-math students are not, it's not that tough. Actually, students have the fear of this CSAT. So CSAT is not that tough examination, and moreover, simply you need to qualify in that paper. That's all. Those marks are not counted for merit. And moreover, the civil services aptitude test not just focuses on mathematics, but it focuses on many other aspects. Like it focuses on English comprehension, then reasoning, then quantitative aptitude, then analytical ability, like there are many aspects. So very easily you can practice. It is not that difficult. Moreover, it is only a qualifying examination. So you need not worry. You need not have any fear of this CSAT examination. So very easily you can clear it. And how to start from initial. This I think how many marks for which you please go through the UPSC website, you will get correct information related to this. And as far as my knowledge is concerned, I think it is 40%. But still, anyhow, you please go through the UPSC website. There you can find all the rules and regulations related to qualifying marks in CSAT and also general studies. What is the backup for a BA graduate if you won't get UPSC? Yeah, here backup in the sense, if you are not successful in UPSC, you have many other opportunities, like you can appear for state level competitive examinations. For example, APPSC or TSPSC, Group 1, Group 2, and Group 2B. And I have seen most of the students who have rigorously prepared for civil services examination, and those who were not successful in civil services examination, but they got very good job. They got very good job through APPSC Group 1 or Group 2 examination. Why? Because while preparing for UPSC civil services examination, you get tremendous amount of knowledge, tremendous amount of confidence. If you are able to make use of it, definitely you will be successful in other examinations. Even suppose you have practice in mathematical ability, test of reasoning, and English comprehension skills, even you can appear for what is that called, Staff Selection Commission. Staff Selection Commission conduct an examination for inspectors of income tax and central excise. Even those jobs are also very good. Then you can also prepare for banking services recruitment board exam. They are also very good. Or you can continue your further education, like especially for BA students, you can continue your higher education, like you can do your MA in some subject, then you can go for PhD, you can become a lecturer, in any college, like junior colleges and degree colleges, or you can become a professor in the universities. Like, yes, there are many opportunities even with your BA and MA. But you try to focus on the civil services exam preparation. You first priority to be successful in civil services examination. Yes, with sociology, there are many job opportunities in non-governmental organizations, especially in abroad. In many developed nations, There are many non-governmental organizations working across the globe, and especially the students of sociology and social work, they are getting uh, uh, many employment opportunities in such kind of organizations. Even in India also, there are many organizations like NIRD, National Institute of Rural Development, and there are many uh, uh, research organizations like Indira Gandhi National Institute of Development Studies, Madras Institute of Development Studies, Tata Institute of Social Sciences. Like that, there are many national level institutes where sociology students have employment opportunities. Yes, uh, there are many uh, alternative employment opportunities for the students of sociology. Okay. Any questions? Okay, shall we stop here? Anybody from 21st Century IAS Academy? Hello? I think let us stop here. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much for your patient listening. And I hope you got some information with regard to sociology. And if at all you need any help with regard to sociology, you can approach me through 21st Century IAS Academy. Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, we are Srikant. Would you like to ask any question? Srikant, you please unmute. Okay, thank you.